Hello everyone, welcome to the lab session for the form creation chapter. So in this video tutorial you're going to learn and practice how to create a form in your website. So you're going to add a form page like this. This form page is going to have the responsiveness, that means in the PC display mode it will have the 2-column layout like this, and then in tablet display mode it's going to have the single column layout with this kind of structure, and then in mobile display it's going to have the single column layout with this extended, the input area is going to take the whole viewport like this. So let's get started. For this practice you're going to have the this is the starting file. So you have to take the previous chapter 9 folder where you have created your table, and let's have that as a starting file and rename it as whatever you want. So your starting folder of your food and fitness website is going to have these files, and first we have to create the web page. Okay, so index.html, let's take that as a starting file, copy it and paste it and rename this as, first let's check what is that name of that registration is going to be. So we have created a registration page here which is not active, so we are going to create this page now. So registration, so let's add that, let's rename it as registration.html. Okay, so now let's open this in text editor. So you can see the name of the rename name should be registration.html. Just verify it should have the same name, and then we are going to change our main. So right now the main, since we have just copied that index.html, it is going to display the index.html page as it is. So we have to change the content. So for that, first delete everything inside the main. So we have to replace the main content with the form content. Okay, so let's add the forms one by one. First thing, we have to add the content. For your reference, I'm just going to take this registration website. So the register to join as member in food and fitness. So that is going to be the header. So let's add the header. So h2. So you have to add this header inside the h2 tag. Register to join as member. Okay, next we have to have this information, contact us today, which is going to be the next header. So let's add h3, and then let's add the content, contact us today. Next we have to add this information, required fields or more with an asterisk. So that information is a normal paragraph tag. So let's add that content. So normally if you look the real-time form, you will have this like what are the required field. Without that field it will not let you to submit your input. Okay, let's add that. Yeah, so then we are going to add the form tag. Okay, so this is going to be the parent container, So whatever you have given outside this form tag will not be recognized as form. Okay, so this form is the parent tag. So we have added that. So next thing, let's look at the input tag. So this is going to be the normal input tag, text box, and the last name is also going to be the normal text box. And this, okay, first let's add these two. So input, it's going to be the text box, right? Input type text. Okay, so the ID, we have to add the ID. So the ID is going to be first name. Okay, and we have to add the name of the field, which is also going to be first name. And then that this field is required or not. So if it is going to have the asterisk symbol, then it is going to be required. So since it is required field, the first name is required field, let's add the attribute required. Okay, so we have created the box, but we have to create the label. Okay, so label ID should be same as this ID and name of the field. So for should be first name. So if you recall, the label will be helpful for the assistive technology. Okay, so the reader can read whatever you have given inside the label. So it should display what is this field. So this one, asterisk first name, should be inside the label. So not only it will be visible to the user, but also it can be read by the reader. For if anyone is using assistive technology to read the content, it is readable by the reader. Save. So let's refresh the screen and see how it looks. So you can see this is how we want it to be. Okay, so we have to simply add some semicolon, colon, then it should be good. Okay, so the next thing that we have to add is the last name. So to avoid repeating the same content, let's copy and paste. That will say the typo error, last name, and let's change the IDs. Okay, so this is also going to be the required field. So we have added the last name. Okay, so we will change the order by using the CSS, so don't worry about that. So let's first add the content. So the next content that we are going to add is the date of birth. Okay, so for the date of birth, that means this one, for that it's not the normal text box. We have to add the text box which can handle the date. For that, the type of the input type attribute is going to have date. Instead of text, we have to have the date. So let's copy and paste this and change. So this is going to be date of birth. Okay, so let's change the ID to DOB. Okay, so the label for attribute value should be same as this ID value. And here, instead of text, we have to have date attribute. So let's save and refresh the screen. So you can see now we have added the date attribute for the date of birth. Good. So the date of birth, it's not a required field. So let's take off this required attribute and also this asterisk symbol. So the next one, email, phone number and comments. So let's add email in the form. Okay, so if you recall, email is going to be the required, but if you recall, for the email, for the form validation, verification, if you want to do the verification, even you can use the text field, but if you want to do the verification, then it is better to use the email, like email value for the type attribute, so that it will verify whether the entered information is in the email format or not. Okay, so for that validation, to add that validation, we are using email as an attribute value. So this for is going to have email, is going to be the ID and name value. So this is going to be the required field. So save and refresh the screen and see you have added the email. Okay, so next we are going to add the phone number. Okay, even for the phone number there is separate attribute value that we can use, so that it will verify whether the entered information is in the phone number format or not. So if you recall, to add the phone number verification, we have to use the attribute value TEL. Okay, so let's add the attribute mobile. It's going to be the ID. So let's change the for value and name. Okay, so you can have either, it's not a required field, so say phone, it's not a required field. So finally we have to add comments. So for the comments we have to use the tag called text area. So let's add the text area tag. Text area tag ID is going to be comments, and then name is going to be comments. Okay, so let's add the label for this. Enter your feedback. So it's with the command we can specify what is the width and height of the comment box. Okay, so the width is going to be like 50 columns. The column is going to be, width means column, this one is going to be 50 and the rows can be 3 to 4. Okay, so let's add that content. So to specify the width we have to use the attribute calls, is going to be 50, and then the row is with height. Okay, so that is going to be 4 rows. Finally we have to add the submit button. Okay, for the submit button you have to say input type is going to be submit. The value means what will appear on the top of the submit button. Sorry, so that is going to be submit. Save and refresh the screen. So this is what we have. Okay, so the content, everything same. So the thing is like we have to format it. Okay, so we have to format it so that it will look like this. So to do the formatting we have to open the CSS. So let's open the CSS file in the text editor. So first let's start with the mobile display. Okay, so let's start with the mobile display. So if you change this to mobile display format, so first let's verify what are the stuff that we have to add. We have to first take this column layout, like it should not wrap, so we have to specify no wrap, so that would work. We have to specify display flex, and column with no wrap will make it like each input type will take only one row. Okay, so that will work. So let's do that. So go to the mobile column layout. So before the tablet display, the mobile display, let's add form tag. In the form tag, the first thing that we are going to do, let's use we can either use grid or flex. So let's use flex, display flex, and then we have to say flex flow. So here we want to do it in vertical direction, right? So should display one by one vertically. So for that we have to say column flex flow, whether we want it. Flex flow is the combination of a direction and whether no wrap or wrap. So here we don't want it to be in the same line, so we want it to be no wrap. Save, and if you refresh the screen, so if you refresh the screen, and like you can see display flex flow column no wrap. For this input you can see, so now it is formatted. Okay, so the no wrap attribute will make it like it will take only one line, but here if you see we need some margin between the text area and submit button, so we need to fine tune this structure. For that you have to say input. Which input? There are a lot of inputs, so we have to in the input text area. So for all the inputs and text area, including text area, we need some margin between the, we need some space between the form elements. So for that we are saying 1 EM. So for input and then text area we need some space. So you can see it has added some space, so it looks, it's not crowded. Okay, so that looks good with the mobile display. And then we have to change the tablet display from 2-column layout. So we don't want the 2-column layout in the tablet display, so let's change that. So go to the 600 pixel, that is the mobile tablet display value. So this time let's use grid. Okay, display grid for the tablet display, and we have used the margin bottom in the flex. For the grid we have the attribute called grid gap, which we can use to bring that space. Okay, so you refresh the screen, so you can see we have display grid, and we have to modify this double column layout to single column layout. So for that grid template columns, and we have to say the first that the label is going to take 6 EM and the remaining space is for input area, input element. And then the grid template row is going to be auto. Grid template row is going to be auto, and it's not going to take, we don't want the full screen, right? So we just want 60%. So if it is mobile display, we need to take the full viewport. For the tablet display, it doesn't need to take the full viewport. So let's say the width is going to be 60%. So if you refresh the screen, then you can see it looks good now. And the only thing that we want to modify is the submit button. It should not be here. It should get along with the aligned with this input element. For that we have to change the column of that submit button. So to specify that, the selector should be inside the input. The type is going to be submit. Okay, so we have never done this kind of selector, so this is kind of a little bit different. So there are a lot of attribute values in that. For that attribute value submit, particularly for that we want to take this format. Grid column is going to take only 2 by 3. So that is second row, not the first, sorry, second column. Grid column 2 by 3. Okay, save and refresh the screen. It looks good, but the only thing is the submit button doesn't need to be this much bigger. Okay, so let's change the width of that submit button. The width is going to be 10 times in the original value. Okay, now it looks good. So this is how we want the tablet column layout. Okay, and the same thing for the PC layout. So with this PC tablet display mode, you can see we have modified. So this is for mobile and this is for tablet, and with the PC it will take double column layout. So we have added form to the food and fitness website. See you in the next video. Thank you.